Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori. We are breaking it down to here today on Fight Talk. It's going to be an exciting fight. It's going to be a cracker. We all know what Robert Whittaker can bring. Marvin Vettori is exciting. What do you think, Shahid?
I'm going to Robert Whittaker in this fight. Marvin Vettori has actually said he's going to go out there trying to finish Robert Whittaker as his statement, as he wants another title shot. He's hungry for it. And Robert Whittaker equally saying in an interview that he's looking to be the first person to finish Marvin Vettori. Yikes, calling him Marvin Vettori. But it's all good, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going Robert Whittaker. I think there's a few things that are glaring to me. I mean, looking at Israel Adesanya's last performance against Jared Cannonier, and I like to compare fights, right, to see their effectiveness in striking and so on and so forth, where there's similarities in fights. And Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier, it was a stand-up fight for 5 rounds, very inactive and a boring fight. For someone like Adesanya, who's a striker, but when Robert Whittaker fought Jared Cannonier, he dominated him with his striking. Yes, he used some grappling and so on and so forth as well, but he was really hurting him with some of his strikes in the fight. And it just shows Robert Whittaker, despite his first loss to Adesanya, he is still very dangerous. Like he showed in his second fight, his improvements with his boxing, his mixing in with his grappling as well. He showed an improved jab, which he even outlanded Israel Adesanya, I think, in rounds 4. And yeah, showed a really good performance against Adesanya. New and improved Robert Whittaker.
He's in training to improve his boxing some more right now, isn't he? Doing for this fight.
Yeah, and like I said, he said in an interview that I heard he wants to finish Marvin Vettori. So let's see what happens, man. It's going to be a very interesting fight, this one. Marvin Vettori is clearly the better grappler here in this one, though. And I think he's going to be a little bit big. I want to see how they size up towards one another. I think Marvin Vettori is going to be the bigger looking guy.
It's looking like Robert Whittaker's looking to go for the finish anyway. He's looking to come in strong and outbox him, outstrike him, and finish it off. So it's looking.
Yeah, because I think one thing that why Robert Whittaker has good success with his grappling and takedowns is, which shows against Adesanya, because in terms of efficiency, Robert Whittaker had 4 takedowns landed out of 10, and Marvin Vettori 14 takedowns attempted and only 4, the same amount, 4 landed. He had Adesanya controlled him for longer, but he is a grappler, he is better. But Robert Whittaker, my whole point is that his grappling is quite good as well. He can be successful with his wrestling. He's no slouch in that department, even though obviously Vettori has the advantage there as well, though. Robert Whittaker, though, man, one thing that I like about him is that he, like in the Cannonier fight, like in a lot of his fights, he sets up a devastating head kick. He changes his level. Obviously, he uses his jab, he uses his straight shots, and then once he's attempted a few takedowns, he will do this lovely 1-2, changes his level, head kick. Obviously, a lot of people know about it, that Robert Whittaker's known for that combination. And he does it in a very unique way. And I think that there's just more of a versatility around Robert Whittaker, his striking and his whole all-roundedness as an MMA fighter. When I'm comparing him to Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is just he does what he does. He hasn't really shown any development or anything. Him transforming into what he needs to be to go into that upper part of the division. He's looking like he'll be a solid contender, but I don't think he's developed as much to beat the likes of Robert Whittaker.
He did have a good last fight against Paulo Costa, though. Speaking of it, he did get a good win against him. It was a good fight, so he is coming off of a win, so his momentum is high. You know, he's coming in strong and ready, I think. But not to say that he's gonna take out Robert Whittaker. I really like Robert Whittaker. He's one of my favourite. He always brings top energy, top activity in. So it's gonna be a great fight. I wouldn't count Vettori out, though. I wouldn't count him out. I'm leaning towards Whittaker, definitely. Whittaker is gonna take it. I would say maybe 2nd or 3rd round stoppage.
Seeming that they're both going out there to try and get the stoppage, it might open up a lot of openings for either fighter, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Seeing Robert Whittaker's interview, I'm convinced.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? But he is coming off an injury as well, isn't he? I think he's coming off an injury, so you have to bear that in mind as well. I know, obviously, the fighters themselves like to get excited, but Marvin Vettori's tough, man. I mean, he went the full distance with Adesanya. Adesanya is dangerous. It's not like he got bowled over or anything like that, or he stood in, he was there with him, went the full 25 minutes, so let's see what happens, man. What do you think about Robert Whittaker says he wants to go up to light heavyweight? What do you
light
think about
heavyweight.
him being? I think that's a terrible.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
that would be a terrible decision. I think at the way he's at now, he fills out perfectly. He's got enough power behind everything. If he goes up a weight, he'll just
I think he'll get. If you
yeah,
got to think about the people that's up there, man. Jan
exactly.
Blachowicz, Glover
He won't
Teixeira,
be as
Jiri
powerful.
Prochazka.
He won't be as powerful if he goes up there. So he definitely should stay.
100%, man. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us, a high-level pundit who's watched the game for years and years, joining us today, Timmy on Tech. He's going to tell us what he thinks about this decent fight at middleweight, Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori. Timmy on Tech, who
Hi,
have you got
guys.
winning this fight? How do you see this fight going down?
I see it being a Robert Whittaker stoppage, and I'm saying that because of the performances against Israel Adesanya. He is the champ at that weight, so I think he sort of sets the benchmark for that division. And I think Robert Whittaker he performed way better against Adesanya than Vettori did in both fights. So on both of their sides,
Also, the performance against Cannonier, if you remember that one.
yeah,
He absolutely dominated Cannonier, hurt him multiple times
Yeah.
with the 1-2 head kick that I was talking about earlier.
exactly. And we saw Cannonier and Adesanya, and it was a resemblance of Romero and Adesanya in a way.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So we know how Adesanya is going to fight when he's in there against somebody dangerous. He's going to keep them far away, control the rhythm of the fight, and take his shots when he needs to. And he done a much better job against Vettori than what he did against Whittaker. So for that reason, I think Whittaker is going to stop him. If he doesn't stop him, he's definitely going to take it by points. But I think it's going to be a Robert Whittaker stoppage.
Yeah, this is
Probably-
what I went for.
I would say probably second, third round.
Exactly.
That's
what
the
I
exact
said,
same as T-Bone. So Timmy on Tech's going with a second, third round stoppage for Robert
We
Whittaker.
haven't
Same
spoken,
thing.
by the way. Me and T-Bone haven't
We
spoken.
haven't spoken, so that's crazy. We just both know what Robert Whittaker is like, what he's capable of, and what he brings every time. You know?
So both T-Bone and Timmy on Tech, without conferring, both going with a second or third round stoppage for Robert Whittaker. I think it's going to be Robert Whittaker points decision. Marvin Vettori is tough. We have to remember he was in there for 5 rounds against Israel Adesanya as well. And although he was able to neutralize Adesanya's striking, he was still able to absorb some of the shots that he was obviously receiving. So he is a tough guy.
Yeah.
Maybe if Whittaker puts on the pace and shows improvements in his boxing, which he's been working on, he might be able to get the stoppage if he lands some big clean shots. But he's going to need to really put the work in and out-volume Vettori, I think, to get the stoppage here.
Definitely.
But yeah, all going with Whittaker. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Like, subscribe. We'll be back to break down the rest of this card shortly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.